and talk about some of the requirements.
Yeah. So did you guys have a chance to jump on?
Yeah, I took a look at this website, and I guess the question seems a little weird. It said, I guess I went to a couple different places and looked at the requirements, but I assumed that I was going to be looking at applications that were already complete. I guess that's not the case.
Yeah. We're looking at blank ones, right?
Well, and what didn't make much sense to me is that for the application asks for, you need to fill it in. Otherwise, it could be used to screen you out.
Right.
So, okay.
So
now
what?
You deal with this all the time, right?
Yeah, I get 3 to 4 applications a week in my position. And so in looking at the job applications, it said to look at 3. So of course I went into a banking position, but Zach, what did you look at?
I looked at a little everything. I looked at some airline jobs, and then I looked at some. I actually took a quick look at this Walmart thing, and then I went down to like my sector, which I found. I think you can go to all job categories, and I found telecommunications jobs. So I looked at that just a little. But I was just sort of going on. I mean, I didn't really go in depth on them because I was expecting to see an actual job application, and maybe I wasn't looking in the right place.
Yeah, I also found that a lot of them, when you click on it, you were able to see a lot of the job requirements, but to actually get an application, you had to download. You had to download the app, and some of them weren't available online either.
Yeah, because I have this website up right now, and I guess if you guys want, I could look at something and read it or whatever. But or you can tell me where you were looking at them. We can look at the same thing, maybe.
Yeah, let's look at the same one. So I'm in the website as well. Are you in there too, Norm?
Yeah.
Lorelai. So Zach, why don't you walk us to where you're at?
Okay, I'm at the main page, and then I'm looking at the right side where it says job categories, and then it gives the sort of the general one. So I don't know if you guys want to. Is that where you were going?
Yep.
For example, I looked at say just on very top. I just clicked on airline job.
Okay.
And I went to the top icon where it says JetBlue Airways.
Okay.
And from that, I just sort of scanned through here and I looked at a couple different things, but.
Okay, so in looking at this really quick, if everybody wants to take a look at that, one of the questions it says, what would you want to include and what would you not want to include in an application for like this job specifically?
I'm going to click on search job openings because I think maybe if we just pick a particular, I'm not going to put a location in here.
So you're clicking search job openings under that JetBlue.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
oh, perfect.
Okay, so results for JetBlue Airways. We've got airport ramp agent, airport operations officer, flight attendant.
You'll notice those are going on, that says extra airways. I don't know if that's related to JetBlue.
So maybe we click on that one that says operations officer because that's a JetBlue.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to click on read more here for the. Okay, so essential responsibilities: tagging and handling customer luggage, preparing aircraft for flight, operating and maintaining airport equipment. I get a pop-up here. Great benefits package. Submit your application now to become an airport operations officer. So I think the thing, I don't think it really matters what company we're looking at or particularly what job. I think they want us, the purpose of this exercise is to look at potential job openings and be able to recognize what they're asking for in the job description and what you, if you were applying for that, what you would want to do. So for instance, for this one, tagging and handling customer luggage. If you've had some experience in something like that, or you could relate that to some experience you have, then you would probably include that in your cover letter. And maybe in your resume, you would just have, different types of experience.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think, because where it says what would you want and what would you not want to include in these job applications, of course, when in this application, it's probably not going to ask you what, because, like with us, we ask, because we're going to do some pretty serious stuff. So we ask if they have a criminal history. So that's probably not something that they're going to ask.
Oh, they
here.
might.
They might. Well, yeah, especially with everything that's going on, right?
Mhm. What's interesting is when I clicked on that apply now button, it sent me to arlington-va.gibo.com. And so they want you to start filling out an online application through Gibo. I've never heard of Gibo.
Yeah, me neither.
So as I've been doing job searches, I go to the employer site instead of like .com or another site. I like going directly to the site.
I agree. I do the same thing. I mean, nothing wrong.
Blurry there.
Well, and this one looks pretty, it looks like it's not asking for a whole lot. I guess when you hit the continue button, it may ask for more, but it definitely is asking for your resume. So got to make sure you have that on file. For sure. So it does say too, like, what could you do to make an impression? What are 3 things that you could do to make an impression as you fill out that job application?
See, without actually seeing the application, it's kind of hard to tell. I mean, everything we did this week was, kind of focusing on, your cover letter and your resume and things like that versus filling out an application. I think the key thing with filling out an application is just make it brief, simple, and make sure you don't leave a bunch of stuff blank.
Yeah, I actually wrote that in my notes as I was preparing for this same thing. I hate applications that come in that are blank or that say "see resume" on every line. That's a little frustrating. It means they're going to cut corners in their job as well. Sometimes.
So that'd be a reason for screening them out and not even having them. Right?
You do have to look at I look at their resume too, but sometimes their resume is about the same as the application.
I got to laugh. When we were hiring a service technician, the guy that we ended up hiring, we were talking about him and the supervisor that was going to be supervising him. We were talking about the different applicants and things. And one of the things I was like, boy, this guy's application has really good handwriting. And, just didn't really think about it. And he ended up getting hired. And then he's filling out these work orders and we can barely read his writing. And I'm like, Brian, your handwriting was so good on your application. He's like, yeah, I have my wife fill it out. So it's like, okay, you need to work on your handwriting on these work orders. It's like,
that's a little bit of misrepresentation.
but that might be a good thing if you don't have such good handwriting and you're doing a paper application. You have somebody that has good handwriting do it. But.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people take that for granted because everything I do is, nothing I do is really handwritten. Everything I print out documents, I fill out electronic documents, email them. I have all right handwriting, and I was giving my daughter a hard time because her handwriting is not very good, and I can't read it. And so I was asking how her teacher was supposed to be reading it.
And I think in today's society, if I took an application home, as clearly that worker did, and use the Adobe software to fill it in.
That's what I would do.
It just kind of depends on your hiring process and your company, and if you're pretty much paperless, then you could certainly do that.
Yeah, I actually get both. I get, I get the ones that they've taken the time to do that, and then I also get the ones where they do take them home and fill them out online. So, for us, it's really looking at the content on the application, and if they really are reading what the line that they're filling out, and making sure that they are making an impression. Because one of the things that I find in a job application as well is if somebody uses like 3 or 4 different pens to fill out an application, that to me is a little bit of a red flag as well. And so, best impression is to, when you sit down and fill it out, that you really just do sit down and fill it out completely. And, that really makes an impression to me.
Yeah, I can see how that would make you go, huh?
Yeah. And to me, if they pull it off and they do throw that into Adobe Reader, that also to me is an indication that they are computer savvy, and that is something that we look at if they embrace technology. And so that also helps me to see how they're going to also react to that, because we had one that came in, she told us she knew understood software, her resume, her application said that she really understood Microsoft Excel, Office, and but she'd filled everything out by hand. And when we hired her and put her on the teller line, she could hardly even turn on a computer. And we ended up letting her go shortly after that because she couldn't even function. So it was a little bit, some of them are a little bit deceiving, but she had great handwriting. She was very detailed in all of that. So they're tough sometimes.
We're really big on skills tests. We have like for administrative assistant things, we have little Excel and micro PowerPoint. We have just different little exercises. We give them a 10-point step. Do this, do that, and we leave out a couple of steps to see they know how to get from, point A to point D and we're interested in seeing how creative they are in coming up with a B and C or whatever, just different steps in between. So, but I know with bigger companies, I think it's harder to, um, do that with a bunch of different candidates.
So is that part of your application process?
Yeah, so what we have the application and resume. So we go through those, weed out unqualified people and narrow it down, and then we typically do a test, um, a written test, and then the people that score high on the written test and qualifications, and we bring them in and do interviews. So we that's one thing I am just a huge believer in. My motto is hire slow, fire fast. Got to get rid of people, get rid of them fast. Don't wait around for them to make the second and third mistake. If your gut feeling's telling you, oh, this person just really isn't fitting in, they just don't have what it takes, just get rid of them quick. But as far as the hiring process, take your time. Don't rush into a hire.
Now let me
type-
ask.
Go ahead, Lorelei.
Oh, I was just going to say, how large of a company do you work for, Norman? How many?
Well, I've had a security company where we had up to 150 employees. Right now, as general manager of the water district, we only have 8 employees. So it's nice but it's also good because the longevity is there. Like when we've only hired 2 people in the 4 years that I've been there. So we're going to be with that person, and they're going to be a big part of the team, and so you don't want to have the wrong person on the team.
Yeah, understandable.
But when we had the security company, we like for our door-to-door salespeople, we'd hire 5 people a week, and only one person would stick around because it was a commission sales. So it's a little different with different positions.
I just think that based on the number of people you have to hire annually, let's say, you have greater control in smaller companies than you do in great big companies. In the larger companies, this is what we do, period.
Right. So I think, when we're getting back to talking about the application process, I think that's probably really key for you to do your research is, what type of company are you applying to? Are they a big company that goes through a lot of hires, and you just really want to make sure your qualifications are there? Or if it's a small company, do you want to kind of play up to that? And the person that we ended up hiring, we didn't necessarily hire him because he came in and was friendly and was, kind of chatting about how the application process went, and how are things going with the hiring process. He was very qualified too, but that was just like a little bonus because we thought, oh, that's good because our technicians have a lot of contact with the public. And so, if we've got a real personable, friendly person, that'll fit into what we want. And, because we're kind of like a little family. So I don't know if, he kind of looked into it and said, well, it's a small organization, so I want to make a real personable impression. But either way, I think you do need to do your homework and tailor your approach to the company you'd like to be hired with.
Yeah, I really like people that when they either come into, because some of them just come in and drop it off at the teller line, so I actually never see the person. So I've actually had my teller line, kind of give me like a first impression for them. as they turn in the application. But I think what's also great too is that that impression is when they come in, that application is 100% filled out, that resume is filled out, and they actually come up to my office. I'm on the 4th floor of the building, and they actually come up and just say, hey, I just wanted to meet you. I'm dropping off my resume and my application. And, I've researched, and they've said, I've looked at your website. You really look like a company that I'd want to work for. That to me is a great, somebody that really is, they're not just out there looking for a job, but they're actually looking more for a career. And so I try to look at the difference in that, in those two as well. And we've kind of revised our application a little bit too, just so that we can really narrow down and focus past that, just people who want a job. Sometimes these applications are so simple, and then you have to rely on that resume, or you have to rely on the interview to kind of sell yourself. And so we've kind of made our application a little bit more in detail so that the weeding out process can happen, and we're not wasting our time, with the kid who walks in my office in jeans and sits down and crosses her legs and says, when do I start? And I'm like, you kind of have to interview first, and your application shows that, you really didn't do a lot. So I even think like a more detailed application rather than just a short one helps an employer do a lot more filtering up front.
Now, what did you add to your applications to do better screening, just generally?
So, generally, we in their work history, we added what they did. So, they have to list what they do. We also have to have them list how they felt about their manager, what they felt if we called their manager, what their manager would ask them. We asked them to be very specific on their history of using, because we use a lot of computer technology. We want them to be specific in which applications that they've used, and kind of tell us what's happening. And then, of course, we did go a little bit more in detail in their criminal history. We want to know kind of what's going on. We even had a girl say, well, I had this many speeding tickets. And we're like, well, that really that's not kind of what we were asking for. But her honesty was so great that we ended up hiring her, and she's been with us for like 10 years. But she put speeding on that. And then we actually have them write an essay on the back of our application of how they feel they would be an asset to our company, and what they'll bring to our company, how they, if they feel like they're going to be here for quite a while, if they want a career, we just want them to sell themselves and it's just a half page that we ask them to basically sell us. And that's been effective.
Good to know.
Yeah. So we've kind of talked about, a few of these.
Well,
So
do you guys want to agree on, it says a list, identify at least 3 things that you can make sure you do to make the best impression possible?
yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about that.
Agree on those 3 things maybe, or
Yeah.
get an idea?
I think number 1 would be completeness.
Yep, I like that.
Fill out everything, if even if it's something, are you you have military experience or something, at least just put in NA or something like that.
And then
I
another.
was gonna
Go ahead.
go ahead. Well, you guys mentioned handwriting, and along that line, just because not everything's handwritten, but professionalism, maybe to tie in handwriting, or if we're filling it out online.
If you're filling it out online, grammar, punctuation,
Yeah.
typos,
There you go.
make sure that you proofread it.
Right.
Go over it, read it. The thing that really helps me in proofreading, whether it's schoolwork or discussion board posts, anything, is just to read something out loud. Read your
Right.
answers on the application out loud.
And then I sometimes find that, as careful as I am, if you print it and then look at it or you submit it, you may catch things that you didn't catch as far as formatting, or maybe an extra space in there that makes it look balanced or something like that.
Have somebody else look at it too.
Yeah.
Be horrible to have, like your dream job slip away because, you had some typos, and maybe the person that looks at it's a perfectionist and they just focus on that and don't see your experience and everything else, and it gets weeded out. And there you go.
Right.
So Annette, what's the last thing you look for on an application?
So I think probably I do look at their job experience, and probably the thing that I look at is longevity in the jobs that they currently have. If somebody comes in and they have 10 jobs in the last year, that's almost for sure. I'm not going to even look at that, but I'll actually look at each of their jobs, the longevity, and kind of the experience that they've gained there. Just because then I know that when they come to us, they'll probably give us that same thing, and they're looking for a career progression by coming to us. If they have a lot of job history that's just random, that's probably the make or break for me. Is that, yeah, and just in looking at kind of if they have a career path that they're headed down, rather than just they bounce from the convenience store to a retail to a to McDonald's to Walmart, and now they're in banking, and they say all of a sudden they want a career in banking, and I'm like, well, you haven't really you haven't really proved that. But even if they've worked at this convenience store for 3 or 4 years, I'll look at that and say, they've really developed some great, probably really good customer service skills, and they're just looking at moving up and becoming more in a professional. So I'll look at that.
Okay, I got to jump off. I don't think it will kill the whole thing, even though I'm like hosting it. So
We'll find out.
yeah, I'll post the recording because I've got the link already on the email chain. So, all right. Well, you guys
Okay.
can enjoy the rest, and I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Ron.
One thing I was thinking about is making sure that you know about the company you're applying for, like some basic facts. So if you were out looking for a job and you were applying for a bunch of different places, and want to make sure not to get anything confused, like different jobs you applied for, I think that'd be important.
Yeah, I agree, because like we'll have a certain position that's open, and I'll get a resume that I think may fit that, and they'll come in and they'll say, oh, I didn't I wasn't really applying to be a bank teller. I wanted to maybe work in the accounting department. And I'm like, yeah, well, the teller position's the only position we have open right now. And they put on their resume anything when it says which position are you applying for, and they put anything. And so that to me too is, yeah, do your research and see what's open before you just turn in a random resume. So yeah,
Makes good sense.
yeah, I think definitely. So the other thing,
Because I would guess,
go ahead.
that you have a process for one position and a different process for, you're not gonna, I mean,
Okay, you cut out a little bit,
example,
Lorelai. Oh, there we go.
if it's a teller position, for example, you're going to process positions. You're not looking at bookkeeping while you're looking at teller stuff. So you need different applications for, and two separate applications for two separate positions.
Right. Yeah. And that's why we, on our application too, we actually put on there, what position are you applying for? And that also tells us whether or not they, they really know what we have open.
Now, what do you do as far as if you get an application for a position that's not open?
We'll normally, yeah, we'll just send them a letter that says we don't have an open position that matches your qualifications, and we'll keep your application online for a year. And so if something if something comes up, check back and give us a call if something comes up. I do have a file of people that I really want to go back and look at when we have an open position in a specific area. And so I'll keep those applications on a file, and if it comes up, we'll call them, and if they're available, they'll come in.
You also keep a list of those that you've looked at their applications and it's a definite pass on them?
Yes. Yes, because we have 7 branches, and for example, this just happened this week. We had filled a position in one of our other branches, and a girl had interviewed, and she was a definite no in that branch. Well, we had a position open in another branch, and she just went in and applied for the position in that branch. And so she actually applied at both credit unions, and the other manager said, I just got this really great application. And we're like, nope. she's a no. So she tried to kind of swing one on us by applying in a different branch, and we did have her on a do not hire list. So it made it easy. So
Company time.
Say that again.
Saves the company time.
Right.
No reason doing it again when the outcome is likely to be the same with the person that's already been done.
Right. Do you guys do any interviewing or looking at applications?
I don't. Definitely not.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. So we did identify those 3 things. So the completeness, the handwriting, and then reading and